Hello and welcome back to another edition of Indiepocalypse Radio. I am your the Indiepocalypse Radio, the somewhere between your postcon hangout and an interview radio show. I am Andrew, the host of the aforementioned radio show, going for a two in a row approach to actually nailing down what an intro to a show sounds like. I think I've got it all. I am your host of the show, editor of Indiepocalypse, and all of that. We're here with a slew of game developer guests. I am in the process of renaming my thing from your forgot to rename host. I have a very weird number of unnecessary things that I told myself to. One of them being that I have to rename myself every time. But anyway, we're here with our first guest, who that's not the PDF I want at all, or that's not the question thing I have at all. Yes, we heard that first guest from Aqua Lounge, Crossing Plus. No, Crossing. Wait, I forgot how to say that name. Oh no, did I get it right
No,
the
you're
first
good.
time?
Yeah, Crossneek. It's
Crossing
a
Plus, yes,
portmanteau. Yeah, cross plus technique equals Crossneek. It's
yes.
math.
That voice yours, Max Krieger. Max, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm phenomenal. I actually just got out of a local screening of Monkey Man, the new Dev Patel flick.
Ooh, I watched. A friend and I went to go see Love Lies Bleeding, and we're like,
Ooh, how was that?
I'm a big fan. If you're like just messed up people doing bad things, uh, I like that kind of thing. People making a lot of bad decisions. I, one of the rare times I logged on to online, and I saw someone making like a criticism of the character, like, oh, of a movie character being problematic. I'm like, she sucks in a lot of ways, because they're movie people. They're not real. They don't need to be perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Movie people, you got to have a little bit of mess ratio in there in order for them to be compelling.
Yeah, yeah. Movie turns out movie people aren't real, so they can do a lot of different things they can do a lot of things that are bad. They can make a lot of really bad decisions, and have bad views, and it's fine because they're actually just not real people. Uh,
Yeah, that's true. It's the cool part about fiction is that you
yeah.
can do that.
I mean, it is unfortunate that they are a one-to-one mouthpiece for the author and the actors. Of course, that's unfortunate. But
Yeah, yeah. It's okay when Hatsune Miku does it, but other than
right,
that,
but oh well. Say let me. Well, that is. I do want it, but the point is that that was the thing. I was like, oh, that movie looks cool. I should.
yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a really kind of bloody, tight action movie. It wears its John Wick inspiration on its sleeve,
Yes.
with really good cinematography and a kind of 101 level, but pretty decently comprehensive like overlay of socio-political context of contemporary India.
Hey,
So yeah, yeah, recommend it.
a 101 level is still a level that a lot of would you say might say modern cinema is missing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, the perfect level for an action movie not to get too bogged down in the parts.
Right, right, exactly. It's not like uh, it is. Never mind. I was going to go into a tangent of going after the fact and googling who are those painting people in those paintings from the end of RRR and go, uh
Yeah, oops.
oh. Did I just watch American Sniper, the Indian version?
I've heard it compared to like Hamilton
Yeah,
to some extent, which I think, yeah. But yeah, that I had to actually I had to go through that. And it was interesting to see this kind of as a follow-up because it almost feels like a rebuttal to RRR in some ways.
right, right. Well, we're not here to talk about. I don't think talk about movies. I mean, we
Yeah,
could.
what is this? The Hideo Kojima podcast? Come on now.
Oh, I should get Hideo Kojima on here. We can talk all about Mads Mikkelsen. I've also watched The Hunt. We can talk about The Hunt all day. But or or has he moved on to someone new? He might have moved on to someone new. I don't keep track of him.
Yeah, I forget who his latest was. I'll have to go look.
But we're here now. Now we've been talking just very casually, having met once approximately 7 years ago.
Oh my god, is it really that long?
No, it wasn't that long. Only five, probably.
Yeah, it sounds more appropriate.
And
Like it was right
and
before COVID, wasn't it?
yes, and Indiepocalypse didn't exist yet. That's how I frame things.
Yeah, yeah.
I was a
Yeah,
big
we just happened. Shout out to Griffin Parker for sitting us at
yes.
the adjacent tables.
Shout out and then REP not to Griffin Parker, but to uh,
Griffin Parker is very much alive.
but to the indie game showcase there.
Yeah, at OhioCon. Yeah,
Yeah,
rip.
but for at least for a 1 year or so, they had free tables, which was I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a really neat event.
But it is now. I'm heading back that way in October. I think October,
Oh,
for
what-
GDEX.
oh yeah, GDEX. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's that. I'm glad that show made it out of the other end of COVID. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm doing three shows, like three trial shows, and that's like my indie game centric show. But we got sidetracked again. I mentioned up at the top. People, if Aquila, what would you say your leading credit is as an independent creator? What do you
Oh,
if
I
you're
think.
people say ask, hey, we're just bumping shoulders on the show floor, and I'm like, hey, what's up? What do you do? And you say, uh,
Well, there's what I like to say what I do,
yeah,
which is, I don't know, a combination of a game developer and kind of a curator, or a streamer, etc. I have my, I try to have like a really uh, cross cross cultural and lateral presence in games.
yeah,
I enjoy engaging with games as a developer. I enjoy engaging with games as a critic. I enjoy engaging with games as a fan, as somebody who likes to play them and to meet the people and talk to the people involved. I
yes,
really enjoy all of it. Being a critic and a developer at the same time is really tough because it's easy to not make a lot of friends doing that. But
right, right,
I try to really approach it with kind of a positive for the culture mindset, and people seem to resonate with it pretty well. If you ask what my most momentous accomplishment is, it's probably one of my novelty Twitter endeavors. But I'm
yes,
always trying to just use that as a way to keep going on the next creative thing. But I don't regret them. The non-standard McDocumentary is still coming, by the way.
yes.
I just recorded an interview for that last week, and I only got one or two more left before I start script writing.
Am I? Am I? I think I am. Am I near? I think I am near a non-standard. Where is there a brutalist McDonald's somewhere in Massachusetts?
Oh,
I
let me
feel
go
like
check.
I feel
I
like
think there. I'll have to consult the Oracle, but I think
yes.
there might be.
I thought there was one, but I don't remember. I've heard it referenced on another podcast, and I've also in Mass there is the pile of concrete that they call UMass. It's weird to go to other colleges and learn that they aren't just all piles of concrete. Uh,
Yeah. Yep, there it is. It's in Quincy, Brutalist
ah,
McDonald's.
I knew it was in Quincy.
Yep,
Nice.
yep. You are correct. Yeah, and it's apparently, according to my last notes, it is still active, so it continues. But yeah, I had the same deal growing up in Cleveland. Cleveland State University, CSU. Everybody jokingly calls it Concrete State because it's all brutalist stuff
Yeah,
from that period.
it is. But I remember it, and it was not bad. I guess I don't know. I don't know. I like it. I just like when buildings look different than each other. You know.
Yeah, I care about that a whole lot. I'm with you.
Right. Right. Yes. Unsurprisingly. Um, uh, 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 so yeah, no. With your fingers in many pies, non-standard McDonald's is non-standard McDonald's. If that makes it is what it sounds like on the front of the box.
Yeah, it's true. You get what you get what's sold to you, and you go to non-standard McDonald's. You get a non-standard McDonald's.
But if I'm a gamer and I'm looking for games, what is Aqua Lounge dot tele not dot television? That's me being funny about it, dot TV.
Yeah. So it's currently on hiatus. So it's I don't know, not I don't know. If you're going to look for new programming from Aqua Lounge right now, you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. It is
But
coming back this year, later in the year. I just had to take a little bit of time off to get some things in order.
yeah, but if you
But
never heard of it, it's brand new to you already. That's my general
yeah,
philosophy.
exactly. And it'll be brand new again when it gets. It could don't call it off hiatus. You can call it
Yes.
a soft relaunch or whatever the heck you want to call it. But AquaLounge.tv is my kind of attempt to take the idea behind MTV's Liquid Television
Yeah.
over to Twitch. A combination of game streaming that's a curation between deep cut retro stuff and modern indie stuff that intentionally isn't like I intentionally try to cover stuff that isn't getting a lot of coverage, doesn't
Right.
have a lot of momentum right now. Sometimes I'm a bit late to the party on that. By the time I run something, it's already blown up. But that's kind of that's the way it is when you're looking for stuff like that.
Yeah.
All intermixed with music and animation and other video art by independent artists, trying to make it a total cohesive vibes driven package. I feel like Twitch is really dominated by genre play, right? You
Yeah.
have people who are the people who get the most crowd are typically people who stream like one or two games consistently. When you have indie or yeah, quote unquote variety streamers, that can mean all sorts of stuff, but they
Yeah.
do generally tend to fall into one genre of game or another.
Right. Or
And
just like the vague genre of new releases.
yeah, you just whatever is trending in the hope to kind of ride that wave. And Twitch really rewards that, I think, because that general cultural current is what drives revenue and clicks, or the big games that consistently have high numbers being pulled by mega streamers. Those
Right.
are reliable sources of engagement.
Right. And
Um,
it's that weird thing where everyone will see like even if you're a little streamer, a littler streamer, people are like, oh, all the big streamers are playing this game. I want to see my person play this game as well.
It's really, yeah, it's really kind of cult of personality driven. And I don't even say that in the pejorative. Certainly, if there are people who get a little unprofessional with it, it can get out of hand very quickly. We've seen that time and time again with various people on
Yeah.
Twitch. But rather than try to take that route, I kind of want the personality. What if the personality of a Twitch stream was its aesthetic brand, and what if that was something, the aesthetic compelling qualities of something that runs on Aqua Lounge, even if it's totally of a different game genre or a different era, is consistent enough to where people can recognize that as
Yeah.
the personality to follow. That's the whole idea behind Aqua Lounge, and that's something when I referenced MTV's Liquid Television. MTV back in the cable days were really the masters of that game. They were able to build a brand around how to present music, something that diverges so much from genre to genre and has totally different lifestyle circles per genre. How do you bring that all under one umbrella? And they really nailed it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the quest I'm trying to go on.
I've been thinking more about like it's like a shift from critic or curator led into like advertising led, uh
Mhm.
and in terms of how people find stuff, like it feels more like the whatever advertising budget now leads the critics rather than any kind of other way, because there is like that's the you look at if you've been around for too long in life, you see all the people are now all variety streamers. Every game website is devolves into a variety streaming, and how many people are there
Right.
like besides like the super independent stuff, um, and even honestly a lot of the independent stuff is also very um, still within the same content mill. It just has a different name and they own it.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about that too, and how a lot of the discovery methods for getting eyes on things that aren't directly related to ad dollars are kind of coming to a congealed terminus, right? You
Yeah.
have all the press outlets are increasingly ineffective at driving actual engagement with target games, and it feels more like games press is now beholden to chase whatever currents the ad dollars generate,
Right.
especially with the focus on guides. I don't know, like that whole thing with the Kotaku quota of some absurd, I think it was like 50 guides a month or something insane
Yeah.
like
Right.
that. A number not made by a normal person.
And
Um,
the true
yeah.
curse of it is that like that necessity of guy writing and like that style and like how websites demand it. I don't even like those. They're like if I need a guide, it's like this sucks.
Yeah, just
Where's my game facts one?
yeah. Oh god, that scares the shit out of me that GameFAQs is owned by Fandom now. We gotta
Yes.
back that stuff up.
Right. Luckily, they're all text files with no images.
Yes, this is true. There's some metadata. Like there's a lot of old saves on
Yeah.
GameFAQs that we got to come up with a way to crawl. But I think a lot of the text guides have been backed up, which is think that's like that would be like burning the Library of Alexandria
Yeah.
if that was gone.
Like I mean, luckily I still have what like RPG Shrine or shrines.rpgclassics.com, but
Oh yeah, they're still around.
that only covers so much. Um, I need other things like that. That'll help me if I'm looking for information about Fantasy Star. But if I
But
need,
yeah,
but if I'm looking for something, if I need to play, uh, no, I want to call. Oh no, EOE. What does EOE stand for? I don't remember what EOE stands for. It's on
there's
the.
Eve of Extinction.
Is it
There's
Eve
End
of
of
Extinction?
Evangelion.
Is that the
Uh,
PS2 game I'm thinking about?
yes, you're thinking of Eve of Extinction on PS2.
Yes. Oh, he was because he had a cool laser sword on the cover.
Yeah, but you're not trying to learn about one of several games in the East franchise.
Oh, I'm always thinking about Nihon Falcom constantly.
Yep, yep.
It's always front of brain. I know all of. I've played a lot of the. No, actually, no, I have not played a lot of the East games. I was thinking of,
Mhm.
but
You
it's.
have do you own a TurboGrafx or PC Engine?
I do actually.
Oh, nice, nice.
There was a relative a constant refrain of the show, even as of last week, is talking about when I was younger and I got my first job. I bought a lot of games and consoles before they were all very expensive. So
Yeah, it's so the barrier to entry is so high now.
yeah, unless you just you know find them on the internet.
Yeah, or
Uh,
build yourself a Mister Box. I've been thinking
yes.
about doing that.
No, I was at work and like, and it is, and I was realizing the difference of like knowledge. So, the guy was talking about like, oh, dude, you can just buy this box and it has like Donkey Kong and stuff on it. They're talking about probably buying like one of those Timu AliExpress kind of like shitty
Hmm.
Raspberry Pis that look like a PS5.
Hmm.
Um, and there is the that's when you say piracy of knowledge is not as extensive as you think it is. I'm like, oh yeah, that's me witnessing it in real life. That is,
Yeah, and to get back to Aqua Lounge, one of the
yeah,
things I do for Aqua Lounge stuff, all of my retro stuff, I I always run it from real hardware.
right,
This includes a segment that I'm rather proud of called Seaman Live, which is a segment of each stream where we essentially the chat is group raising. For those who aren't familiar, I should start.
right.
Seaman is a
No,
1999.
everyone of course knows what Seaman is. We're all
Oh, there might be the one person who doesn't, live is afraid of fish with man faces and never
right.
engaged with Seaman. So you never know. Or somebody who's deathly afraid of Leonard Nimoy and never engaged with Seaman.
Yeah,
But yeah, Seaman is the virtual pet raising game on the Dreamcast, or you grow little fishmen and you talk to them via the microphone. Well, the idea I had, because I'm running on real hardware,
yeah,
is well, I took a look at the Dreamcast microphone adapter that you use to talk to your little gillman, the little fish, and it just terminates in a headphone jack. And I said, okay, well, what if I run a headphone jack out for my computer and I route Discord's call through the headphone socket? And one thing led to another, and then we were talking to Seaman over the power of the internet. People were just calling in on Discord and kind of doing it like a radio call-in show,
yeah,
where you get to say a couple of words, asking some questions, and then you get to impart some wisdom on the little fish man. And that's something that really the magic of doing that on original hardware and kind of engaging with it as a cultural object rather than having to come up with some jank emulator solution.
right.
It's really allowed me to play a little bit more fast and loose with what I stream. It's not perfect, of course. There's some devices I use for loading that don't have 100% compatibility, and I have to actually lug the physical boxes out and hook
Right.
it all up through my capture card. But I'd still prefer that to mucking about in emulation. It feels a lot more authentic in how I can engage with the medium, and I can just, rather than having to yank out an emulator and make sure all the config is right, I can just go, oh, I want to run this. I'll think of it like an hour before the stream starts. I'll just lug out my Sega Saturn, plug it in, and there it is. That's been a lot of fun, and one of the things I've really enjoyed about running the stream, and it allows me to mix up my programming, but at the same time, and this is my point, is that I realize that I've only been able to do this because I've invested lots of time and no small amount of money
Yeah.
into keeping this hardware going, and it's just because of the game collection market being so value oriented, like, so keeping value up. It's really really hard for people to get into that.
Yeah, yeah. I was at a game shop as I was waiting for a pizza after a zine fair, and I was just looking around, and they were charging like 200 two upwards of like $300 for like a copy of Albert Odyssey, and I'm like,
Albert Odyssey, that's like not even C. It's like a not even B rate. That's like C rate.
yeah,
JRPG.
right, right. But it's like it's just like the rarity market of it all, you know.
Yeah, and rarity is such a fickle term because it's
Yeah,
really not even so much about rarity as it is about demand. And
right.
there's this weird, like, particularly around Nintendo titles, there's this weird kind of mystique that is almost self-perpetuating in how value stays high because people think, oh, it's a Nintendo game, it will sell for a lot of money, which in turn leads to people hoarding them, which in turn makes them more scarce.
Yeah, when I
um,
when I was there was a guy talking about like, Pokemon. They were discussing Pokemon. He's like, oh, let me see the Pokemon. I want to look at the screws or whatever. This is a real Pokemon. And I'm like, dude, it's Pokemon. There's like 80 million Pokemon game like
yeah,
cards you can get.
yeah, it's like, I don't know, like, you've probably seen. I don't think they do it much anymore, but it was trendy for a while for people to take those rare cartridges and like get them, send them to a grading
Yes.
company,
Oh,
have
there.
them be graded as
Oh,
a collectible, and then they would like flay them open and have the cartridges, like
okay.
the PCB, exposed.
Okay, that I did not see. I was trying to. Oh, I wish I could think of the other game. I was there when I was there. They had two graded games. One of them was Radiata Stories. I forget what the other one was. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, with the graded games, like, if especially if you open up the cartridge, like, those are on EPROMs. If you expose those to UV light, it's gonna
Yeah.
wipe the data, and you're gonna have a chunk of silicone plastic without any data on it.
Right. Right. It's well because they're not playing those games anyway. That's not what it's about.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's not what it's about. But
Right.
that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm
Yeah.
trying to the thing I'm trying to do with retro games, because one of the things Twitch really, I think, punishes against is retro is kind of its own category, and
Right.
retro is kind of its own self-contained community of people who are interested specifically in retro games, and retro games and contemporary games are kind of shoved into two different boxes. The thing that I'm really trying to do is, by interleaving retro games with modern stuff, is to draw cultural connections between the past and the present,
Yeah.
and kind of encourage people to build, much like film, a kind of a holistic sense of cultural progression and how things are interconnected. And in this way, it makes them, it refreshes their relevance and their cultural context in the present. You go to a movie theater, like the one I just went to, the shout out to Row House in Pittsburgh, fantastic local programming. You can see stuff that's current run, or you can see stuff from like 50 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's all kind of presented together in a living, breathing tapestry of cultural progression. And I don't know why we don't have that for games. So that's part of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. No, it is a thing that I think about a lot. I bring it up almost every show. Is I love that GQ list from games because I hate it so much because I think it's so bad. Uh, have you seen that their like their critic list, their what's the word I'm looking for, They're
Is this like the hundred? Is this like a
yeah,
100 games of all
yeah,
time list?
they're like composite 100 game list. I think it was either. I imagine it was inspired by because it came around the same time that Sight and Sound poll came out in around 2022, and it was like
Interesting.
it's a truly terrible list. It's like a god awful list. Uh, their number one game is Breath of the Wild, which is
Unsurprising, I guess, if you're going whatever metric they had to define it. I guess
right.
it's ultimately going to be skewed one way or another.
Right, but I'm pretty sure it was just like Sight and Sound does. Like here's a bunch of critics and developers, listing their games. Adding to a list, and then we weight that list, and then whatever pops up on top pops up on top.
Yeah, and I don't know. Critic. That's the thing, is that critic ratings from throughout time really also are their own story, whose
Yeah,
context and path needs to be understood. And any attempt to try to wait like that across any period longer than 8 years is kind of futile because it ignores so much of that. I remember when, I don't know, all the critics were super into Myst and thought that FMV was the future of gaming
right.
because that blew everybody's socks off. And how does that look now?
I don't think Mist is on. Mist is bad news. I don't think Mist is on this list,
What?
but it does have, of course, Red Dead Redemption 2,
Yeah, the horse nuts over FMV.
Skyrim, of course. It's just it is so it feels games feel like people only play games. I guess whenever so much of it when I bump up against it, it feels like they have no cultural uh, curiosity or whatever. It's just it feels very odd. It feels like there's like a reckoning. Not a reckoning seems too severe, but I feel like there's another wave coming in games very soon, where things like, and I think a lot of it is people haven't grown up where games always existed. Um,
Yeah, it's true.
'Cause I find that anecdotally, where people who are like 10, 20 years younger than me, who grew up as games as a medium, not as like this kind of toy that evolved into a storytelling medium, they just kind of they're more accepting of them as like just art, like everything else.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess that's true. Once you are living a life where games stretch farther than you back
Yeah,
into the past, how does that define your relationship with them as a cultural object? That's a great
right.
point.
Yeah, because a lot of the crop of the old folks that have been around forever, you know, the people are always making interesting stuff, but the toyetic side of games was it's much stronger, like even like 30 years ago or so.
Yeah, it's true. And a lot of that, because those people have gone on to found the mega studios of today, a lot of that knowledge or a lot of that outlook, that kind of toyish outlook in design,
Yeah,
persists.
right.
Even at the biggest AAA, quadruple A studios of today, and I do see amongst younger people and how they're engaging with games, it is a lot more of kind of a holistic cultural understanding of
Yeah,
them rather than a toyic structure, and that's something I'm really trying to lean into as well.
yeah. I think in a long term it'll help you out. It'll like it's what life it's what the medium is trending towards. You just need to
Hmm.
uh, uh, let some people burn themselves. Let the other people flake out. I suppose it's a very odd medium to be like
Yeah.
in the medium as it grows into
Yeah,
some.
clearly my solution is I got to get a VTuber on. That'll fix my problems.
Yes, just be a VTuber. My favorite thing about VTubers is that they can fire VTubers and replace VTubers. That's my favorite part about it.
Oh, when they graduate, the
Yes.
VTubers, yeah.
My favorite thing is truly the idol system. It's not disgusting and weird and business minded at all. I truly love it.
Yeah, yeah, the weird drama and intrigue, the speculation.
Yes, it's truly my favorite thing when artists are tied up so deeply within corporations. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm going to be graduated out of indie games soon. As it turns, I don't know if I should. I don't know if I was ready to announce that here, but my indie game graduation is coming up soon. They're going to replace me with a younger model.
Oh no. Got to get the live 2D out there and make
Yes.
yourself a rant Sona. You got to pivot to the YouTube reaction market.
Oh my! I should learn from the best. Truly, I will be the next generation's Doug Walker.
Oh no. No God. I'm imagining this channel awesome coming back with ping tubers. God, kill me.
It has it not yet. Anyway, I've not kept track on it. I think I was at too many games where one of the people within that sphere, I think, were signing autographs next to Charles Martinet. But speaking of none of that, speaking of next to, you're next to the next guest because the next guests are coming up soon. So Max, I have two questions for you that are, I would say, the stock Indiepocalypse questions that come up every week.
Fire when ready.
First off, what's your favorite type of rock?
Oh, I gotta say, translucent rocks,
Okay,
rocks that catch the light in interesting ways. If I can hold the rock up to a light source and it does something cool, I'm for that rock.
perfect, perfect. And second one. Now this one is an optional uh, question. This one is a do, not a what. Do you have a favorite Toho character?
Um, Cherno's got the funny nine meme, so that one.
Perfect. And with that, Max, thank you for joining me here.
Oh yeah, absolutely my pleasure.
Glad to have you on the show. I hope you will, as they say on the radio, stick around. But we're gonna go on break. Uh,
All right, sounds good. And I just want to say, love
yes,
what you do. Love Indiepocalypse.
thank
Keep
you.
going.
I do.
I'm happy to be here.
I don't edit this show, but I do edit out every time somebody says something nice to me. So like,
Uh,
so you're making me. No, I'm kidding. We're gonna be back on the other half of 1 minute and 36 seconds. Goodbye for now.
See you, folks.
Hello, welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Weather Day with Come In. We are here with our next guest, who you may know from Indiepocalypse issue number. Which one was it? 51. Oh, that was so soon. That was so recent. But a mere month ago. It's Linson Lime. Linson Lime, how are you doing today?
Hey gang, hey
Hey.
Indiepocalypse.
Oh,
Happy to be here.
I forgot to say your game was Deep Well. I got so out of my rhythm. That was the game. The game
That
is
is
called.
my game.
The game is called
I
Deep
want to
Well.
say I heard some Doug Walker slander from the last guest. I want to say I don't endorse that.
Oh my god.
I don't stand for that, but you know, you do you.
I don't. I think I did implied slander. I think it was politely implied slander. Um, so let's not get too far into Tug Walker for a moment. What is your? I feel like because I'm from an old. I'm from. Are you from the same old era as I am, where that pre-YouTube?
Definitely not.
Okay, so you're from the YouTube era of.
Yes, born and raised.
Did you know they used to just host videos on their own website?
They did.
Yes, just like
That's messed up.
on their own ass website with like non-YouTube video players. I forget what video players they were using.
How did people live like that?
Oh, it was a different time. Some would say a better time in some ways. You can't just you can put your own damn videos on your own damn website.
You don't have to worry about getting demonetized, having your videos taken down.
Right, just know to overwatch them. but
Uh,
but they're there. You don't have to worry about whether you have to mark it as mark whether it is for kids or not. But that all aside, if people are unfamiliar with it, how would you describe Deepwell?
That's a fantastic question. It's the like tagline on the store page is that it's a story-driven adventure game about a small town surrounding a giant mystery hole. And obviously that doesn't do a good job at all of explaining what the game's about.
Right. Well, you know, Jean Dion's about a housewife going about her day to day.
Yeah, that's kind of on purpose a bit. Essentially, the way I design my games, I rip my design philosophy from 100% from Outer Wilds.
Okay.
I want people to be playing my games out of like curiosity. I want the motivating factor for why you're progressing in this to be curiosity. So every like little thing I show about the game is something that you can't like find out about it while you're playing it. It makes it a bit worse in my eyes in that way.
But I think
it does me.
No, sorry, go ahead.
it does me absolutely zero favors for trying to like market it or get people to play it at all.
Oh, well, you've luckily submitted to what I call the home of the unmarketable. So
I did, yeah.
you're in good company there. That is, but uh, I've been watching some online shows lately, and I've realized that people like games. They like the discovery of games and like the discovery of play. Like that's people like that. Like that's like
Yeah,
they like there's an enjoyment to like not knowing the rules and like learning the rules of something. So I feel like the trending towards like excessive tutorializing and like making sure the player's guide knows exactly what they're doing is overstated. I don't think it's needed as much as it it's implied that you have to have the perfect tutorial or whatever.
yeah. People are smarter than game designers give them credit for. You don't have to like, you don't have to always tell people like, oh, you press the like WASD keys to move around, space to interact with things. They're not stupid. Most people they can get that.
Right. And if they don't know how to play games at all in the slightest, there's like a much larger learning curve than
Yeah.
putting a little W arrow above a character's head. Like if you're playing Mario and you run into that guy in the front and listen, he's really hard to miss. He's really hard to dodge, so I can understand how that would happen. And then Mario jumps up and he falls down. You get a new life. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, you got to trial and error.
Oh, that would actually be maybe a funny game jam project of going back to old classics and like putting in heavy tutorials, like modern game tutorial stylings to them all.
Yeah, completely like ruin them.
Yeah, just like what if we just fully put all those little like this little A button above Mario when he goes to the Goomba, so we know that. And tooltips.
You like, you collect a mushroom, giant pop up. Mushrooms, they let you take a point of damage
Yes.
before dying. Try and collect as many as you can.
You've got Mario saying, "Ooh, look, a star! I better catch you the star." Or, yeah, I think what those castle mages were explaining was Mario talking to himself out loud and going, "Ooh, that's a bad path to take. I should take a different one." But that is but follow-up question. And this is something I need to know. How did you learn about Indiepocalypse?
Okay, I have a very like vivid answer to this.
Okay.
It was an act of God. I had just finished like playing this game swollen to bursting until I am disappearing on purpose, and I was looking through the like creator's Tumblr page.
Yes.
And then I found a link to another game called Hallow. Okay. And from there, yes. In the like top right corner, it's for like I see the like game jam submission for the current Indiepocalypse.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect to be accepted because if there's like money on the table, then I don't have much confidence in my ability to get in.
Little do you know. Well, not only you're in the same issue with Hallow, but yeah. You submitted to like a weirdo sicko freak who likes weird stuff, and he was like, yes, the more off the beaten path, the better.
Shit, sorry, someone's calling me. My bad.
No, that's fine.
Hello, who is this?
This is huge asshole calling about your penis and large.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Stupid.
But hello, are you
what
back?
Are you saying? Yeah, I'm back.
No, I was saying you picked the right thing to submit to. Then this is the odd because I feel like you're probably right. I feel like a lot of the things that have like prize and money attached are looking for a very more, I guess, traditional sort of thing. You know, a more like down the line video gamey sort of thing, perhaps.
Yeah, the money it was like a nice bonus.
Yes.
I didn't expect to. I made like I don't know like $60 from that. It was pretty cool.
That's the average is the $20 to $80.
Yeah.
But hey, you
I would have honestly, I would have submitted if this was just like a free thing. I would have done it anyways. Like as long as the at least like Indiepocalypse also wasn't making money while I wasn't making money.
Yes,
I
no,
would have done it.
that's my ongoing philosophy is that if someone's making money, you should be getting your taste of that. You know.
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Right. Exactly. I'm continually getting paid for this, so the people involved should also be getting paid for it. And too often, too many developers in the course of my 4 years of doing this have said, "Oh wow, this is the first time I got money for my games," and I'm like, what? But you make good games. Why are
Yeah.
people? Why don't people give you money for them? And it is a lot of just like um, the style of games that people give money to is very narrow and specific.
Yeah, I'm not really big on the current like popular indie scene as it exists right now. I feel like the biggest problem with a lot of modern indie games is just how completely terrified they are of being like the slightest bit difficult or
Right.
challenging.
Right.
I don't know if. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you might be thinking the same thing.
Like a lot of the like games that are getting released, they're way too easy. And for me, a lot of the fun that comes from like the gameplay side of playing video games is challenge. If the
Yes.
game isn't gonna like try and push my abilities, if I can just like play through it while I'm half asleep, then what's the point?
Right, and a lot of times, and this goes across a lot of games in general. As I feel like at the same time I am also half asleep mentally. You know, like I don't have to like I'm not being challenged on a mental level, like on an artistic level. You know.
Yeah, I feel like that's a problem with modern culture in general.
You're right. Right.
It feels like that we've like slowly shied away, even in the independent scene, from being trying to like make people uncomfortable or like challenge them in ways they might not like.
Right. Right. It's and that is like all industries is that's I think that's like a multi art industry wide kind of like money's getting funneled into the upper smaller or a smaller number of more expensive things.
Yeah.
And so those things have to both, they have to hit broad audiences. They have to hit international audiences,
Be marketable.
Right, right. And often weird niche stuff sometimes doesn't cross cultural barriers in the same way because it's like buried within one specific culture. You're within the culture it's made in. So it's hard to excise and ship it to overseas markets.
Yeah.
But if you just make a monthly zine that makes no money, and you don't worry about that, you can just kind of make whatever you want. And I think that's where like I was talking the first time that there's going to be like a sort of upcoming sort of I don't know like a sea change sort of thing in games of like because if you go on itch, tons of people making tons of stuff, interesting stuff, like non-stop.
Issues just it's hard to like find them underneath the deluge of the like how do I put this the like horror games on itch.io.
Yes,
that aren't particularly good.
That is a specific problem with itch, and I think the fact that it biases video comments,
Yeah,
because every worst possible like I've curated plenty of horror games, and like the truly worst of them, like the dregs of them that I have to play, will have like 6 YouTube videos, playthroughs, and then I'll play like another game that is not a horror game, and it'll be so good that I have to like stop curating games for the rest of that day because it's thrown me into such a different like mental state. and I'll have like 0 comments, no reviews.
Yeah. Like when I released my game Deepwell, it
Yeah.
did so like abysmally poorly. Like I spent hundreds of hours working on this thing,
Yeah.
and like it had like 20 downloads or something. And so like out of that spite, I made another game. I don't know if you saw it on my profile.
Yes,
It's the one. It's called Antipathy,
Yes.
and it's the like video game equivalent of sucking a fart out of my butt. It's just like fully charged with like spite and hatred, I guess, like
Yeah.
angst.
And
It's like a bait and switch horror game that makes fun of the like people who play it. And even still, you go down to like the comments, and there's a bunch of people who are like, "This
yeah,
game is like so
I
scary."
think you have like I just counted. I believe you have 9 playthroughs,
Yeah,
and they're just like so much stuff is like one word, scary.
so scary.
And it makes me wonder, like, are people like playing the games at all, or is it's just like they're their own content mill, of trawling itch for like horror stuff, and that's
Yeah.
and that sucks in its own weird way because I like horror a lot, um, and I think the kind of like the over commodification of horror games kind of like kind of narrows down what horror people perceive horror as being, as like, I don't know, a scary guy chasing you around while you collect 9 things.
Yeah, there's a lot more that can be done with horror. I especially like it when like horror is added as like a separate area to a game that otherwise wouldn't be like considered a horror game.
Right. Or,
Like there's a bunch of like areas in Outer Wilds. Like the rest of the game is just kind of like it's not particularly scary, but you get to these areas and they're like completely butt clenchingly terrifying, and it adds a lot instead of just a blanket brushstroke of horror to like every corner of the game. It like emphasizes these parts, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, no, it's a weird thing I encounter because I get very tense when I play a lot of them, but it's like, it's not like if this makes sense, it's not a fear tenseness. It's kind of like, I don't want to have to do this again tenseness,
Yeah.
of like, I have to play this game, but if the scary guy catches me while I'm collecting my 8 trinkets, I have to go collect all the trinkets again.
You lose your like 20 minutes of progress.
Right, and that's it. Right, the fear is that I don't want to have to lose this progress and do it.
That's kind of a fear I like in some games.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you've played Rain World. You heard of it?
Yes, I'm familiar. Have not played it.
It does that concept really well, where like it's a very traditionally poorly designed game, but because there's so much on like the line for every like death.
Yeah.
There's it makes the game like really nerve-wracking to play.
Right, and that seems like a kind of a thing where this tension exists within something else,
Yeah.
as opposed to something that is kind of like arbitrary, like do nothing busy work, where the tension is the entirety of it, and it feels like often you can't really do anything. Like the entire point of it, which is a weird thing, because like it's like, oh, the point of it is for me to get scared and for me to be in the bottom right corner of my screen and go and jump backwards because I got scared. But I'm not in the bottom right corner of my screen. No one's watching me play these things. I'm just sitting around, minding my own business. But it's an odd thing. So I guess the solution is you just keep making horror games,
Yeah, if I wanted to, because that game, it took me like 2 weeks to make of like very little effort,
Right.
and it did gangbusters. I didn't monetize it at all, if I wanted to, I could turn to the dark side and I could just like pump these bad boys out and probably make like a decent chunk of money.
Right. Just like crank them, and it is like, there are plenty of people who do like interesting horror work, but there is like, because there is this very clear like, I mean, but horror has always been the very like low expense, high return genre across like every medium,
Yeah, movies, games.
Yeah, so there is like that instinct to like, oh, I can just trash his out. I mean, you could be the next what's stopping anyone from becoming the Roger Corman of video games,
Yeah.
Just cranking them out nonstop on cheap and affordable ways possible. But that's life.
It's hard.
But speaking of life, as I said, life comes at you fast, and this segment came out as fast.
Time just flies by.
I know. I was like, I usually am not staring at that my recording timer, because I'm looking at often things we're talking about or scrolling through people's pages, counting all of these little videos on here. Nice game, I liked it.
Like there's some of the like funniest videos I've seen. There's like there's a depiction of the like naked Da Vinci Man. I forget what he's called, Vitruvian Man.
Yeah.
And in like some of these videos, they like censor the genitals of the Vitruvian Man. Like, I can't show this.
Yeah, I have. It's showing right now as we're speaking. I have a very rude cover of Indiepocalypse. Oh, there it goes.
I saw it.
Yeah, I love that one, but it's also that Arch was like, "Can I put nudity on?" They're like, "Yeah, it's for adults. Of course you can." And they went further than I was expecting them to do, but damn, it looks good. It goes hard. But speaking of things that go hard, rocks. Whether we're talking about the musical genre or the naturally occurring piece of nature. Listen, Lion, what is your favorite type of rock?
I like British Sea Power, or just Sea Power, the band. I think they make some nice music. I like their album Open Season. I thought that one was good. I don't know.
Let's see what they are classified as. What is wiki?
Did I give like a wrong answer?
No, you are correct.
Is it not rock?
You are correct. It is indie rock, post-punk revival, and post-rock.
Got it.
So they are covered. I'm unfamiliar, but that's the other thing when I like learning about music, because I'm like, oh, well, who are these guys? They've been around for a while, since the 90s. And speaking of other things that have been around for the 90s, do you have a favorite Toho character?
I watched like one other episode of Indiepocalypse before this.
Yes.
And I heard this question, and I think like I gotta be prepared. So I go to Google Images, I search up Toho characters.
Yes.
I find this one with green hair. It's called Yuka.
Yes.
And then I'm still in Google Images. I scroll down, and I see an image that makes my eyes bug out of my head and my like tongue roll out onto my desk.
Okay.
Because the character is just so cool.
Yes.
So I'd have to pick that one.
Okay.
Because they're so cool.
Yeah, it's Toho. Toho is a cool thing. I like it. I think it's neat.
I should play it sometime. I heard it's like simplistic and challenging.
Yes.
Like.
Yeah. If you're into bullet hells, or if you want to get into bullet hells, it's good. And also, if you're not, that open license you can play any number of Toho games that have nothing to do with bullets or hell.
Okay.
With that said, we're gonna go on break. Thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back in about 1 minute and 46 seconds. A bunch of short breaks today, unintentionally decided. Hello, welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was My Little Airport with D. It may all end tomorrow. I forgot to. Our next two guests, who are not, if you're watching live, they're not the people on the screen, because I forgot to update the people on the screen. They are, in fact, Elizabeth Rose asked what Olivier Bouchard from issue 51 with Whispers. Hello, how are you both doing today?
Hey,
I'm doing great.
well.
Oh, perfect. Glad to have you both on the show. I am like, panicked, hurriedly adjusting this important thing of little screen layouts. But that all said, important question right off the top. I gotta know, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
Elizabeth, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess for me, I've been working with a few indie studios as a writer for several years now.
Okay.
And I was just looking through game jams to do stuff kind of on my own, do some experimenting. And so that's how I came across you quite a while ago, actually. And so we finally submitted something. So I was very excited to have actually shared something with the project.
Yeah, it's been around for a while.
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, on my end, it was like I'm a big fan of Alien Melon's work. We did Everything's Going to Be Okay, I think. That's
Yes.
on itch, and they've been sharing Indiepocalypse a lot, so that's how I found you.
Well, that's great. Yes, no, that is. Let me fix these in here. Yeah, that is. It has been around for such a long time. That has completed my informal marketing portion of the interview, and that is how do I find people to get to this. But if people are unfamiliar with Whispers, how would you describe what is Whispers?
So I can give a short description, Olivier, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you take it. That's mostly your ID.
Cool. So Whispers is a short interactive story that we made, just the two of us, for the Just Play Game Jam in January, which is a game about justice, a game jam about justice. And so this story takes place at a game launch party in 21-24. It is about networking in the video games industry and experiences of marginalized developers. Kind of digging into the realm of business and creation together. Yeah.
And what it is like to be at a kind of networking event. The kind of like cursed nature of being at any kind of networking event, which is its own sort of like which itself can be its own kind of like special misfortune, you know.
Yeah.
Olivier, I'll let you take this one.
Well, I mean, for it, I mostly program, but like I actually met Elizabeth in networking events. So like, and we've been a lot of the time in our own corner, being like as both. I don't know if I want to say antisocial, but as both like weirded out by the uniformity of the industry often.
Yeah.
It kind of create like these small pockets of people around in networking events. So it's like it was very much inspired by our own experience in those events in the Montreal community and around. So
yeah, it's very because like it's one of those weird things where like the game industry does not meet like all the time, you know. So I think that's what kind of like draws people towards the people they know more often, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then it becomes harder for like, you know, like you hang out on Twitter and it's filled with people that are like, how do I get in the game industry? And like, I often think the game industry does not realize how exclusive it is. Like, even though it's been more and more talked, but even in these circles or circles that are, will be vocal about being less exclusionary, they end up like the same patterns tend to repeat themselves pretty quickly. Even though a lot of people are doing good work to make that better. Like, I'm not denying that fact, but yeah.
No, but it also a lot of it trends to like, yeah, we're very, you know, being very open. If you attend GDC or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, even in just this podcast, we've talked about GDC already.
Yes.
And that is renowned for its exclusion of smaller developers and other marginalized people.
Right, it's just get to the most expensive city in the United States, one of the most expensive in the United States for 4, 5, 6 days. Easy enough to do, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Especially on your own dollar. It's
Right. Well, and I know a lot of indie devs here who went to GDC, and they spent a lot of money, in particular this year, looking for publishers or trying to get contracts. And with all the layoffs in the state of things, as it were, it was not a very successful trip for them. And so it's definitely a risk to spend that money yourself and go and not really have any guaranteed outcome for a big conference like that.
right, and that is that is already a small subset of people who have the resources to be like, okay, I can theoretically
Right.
gamble this amount of money to hopefully get a publisher for this game.
Exactly.
It's not like for all the myriad horrors of Hollywood, it's at least one city. Granted, a very big city, but like
Yes.
it's all like one city more or less. I guess New York also, but that's two cities as opposed to 20 or 30 cities across the world, wherever you happen to be. It's like it's game. There's the industry is not really centralized anywhere in any sort of meaningful way, which creates these kind of problems of how does anyone get anywhere to do anything. And it's a true travel mess. There was someone on the show, and I think about this obsessively now since they said it, but they were talking to, I believe, Japanese developers there in Japan. They're saying for one of them to go, for just one person to go to DICE, they could just host a local event.
Yeah.
Like with that same money.
I've heard similar tales from developers.
Right, and like which one of those it's one of those hard things to tell. Like, would it be better to host a local event in within Montreal than to fly, for a couple of people to fly out to GDC? It's the kind of because if you're not getting the big bucks there, there's probably tons of people in the whole Montreal Vancouver area who would be like, oh, games, this is cool, I didn't know there's a game show here, and they don't even know what GDC is.
For what it's worth, Montreal is supposed to be one of the biggest game city, but
Yeah.
when GDC is happening, it sucks all of the air out. And we're not just talking about the event like GDC, but it's that's the place where you need to find publisher, and just for showing your game to publisher in Montreal, there's opportunity there and there, but as someone who's been showing his game recently, it's very hard to do without traveling.
Right.
And just that fact makes it very exclusionary, because you already need to have a certain amount of money to be able to do a pitch that you will be able to show to people. So it does not give opportunity for people that don't have already a foot in the door, basically.
Yeah, I have no no intention, it's impractical for me to ever travel to an event where I will not be selling something, where I do not have a table that sells things.
Right.
And it just seemed I think we were talking about this mildly in the pre-show, but it's very odd thing within games as an art that people go to a lot of events and don't sell anything. They sell the idea of something. When people have a lot of games, and I think it's possible to sell if go to get like a $40 table, like a Zine Fest. As a game developer, I think you can do that, and people are like, oh, cool games. I like games, and they're more. It's like a more receptive audience.
Absolutely. I would really love to see indie game developers extend beyond the kind of classic opportunities.
Yeah.
I was a playwright way back when and came from theater and film. And so I've really been excited to see like you showing this at the Zine Fest and getting involved in other smaller projects because that's where I think a lot of the experimentation and fun creativity can come from.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
like if I was local, if I lived in Austin, I would have done amazingly at that show. Like I would have been.
Mm.
I would have walked home like, wow, I made so much money. I mean, and I did it. And I went to another show in New Hampshire, and I did like, the table cost me $40. I made like 300 something.
Nice. Nice.
And so like, I think the curiosity is there, among this like general audience, or even this like more like indie art minded audience. But like games, I don't think have tried to tap into that audience in the same way yet. It's still kind of like very internet focused.
Yeah, and it's what we were talking about. Like, I come from cinema, was doing movie editing, but like, I think the audience is there. There's a curiosity of like putting video games in the same realm of like movies as an art or like literature, and then being able to compare them. But like, also, it feels like games tend to be very pop culture oriented, and sometimes
Yes.
like the comparison you get from movies and games, like Marvel movies and video games, and you see a lot of cinematic AAA these days. And personally, I'm like, where's the not inspired by the Hollywood movie, but the game that's inspired by, an European art house experimental movie is
Right.
what I'm more curious to see.
I don't. I
Yeah,
don't. I don't want. I don't even want the Citizen Kane of games. What is the Daisy is of video games?
yeah, exactly.
And those things
Uh,
actually. I mean, they exist, but they're on itch and they're hard
yeah,
to
Yes.
find.
they exist, and the audience is more and more there. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not dismissing that there's people that want this
No,
stuff.
no. But it is
Yeah.
that thing where it's like the. It's that weird internet caveat where you're like, we know this thing is true, and we're saying that because we're afraid that people on the internet will get mad at us.
Yeah, kind of.
But it's like, yeah, no. I mean, I've been doing this for 5 years. I know these. I know where these games are. I feature them regularly. Like I know it's,
Hmm.
and I don't doubt that you all know as well. It's just, but they don't have the same cultural cachet as, let's say, those games are not going to find their way to the top of a GQ poll like John Dielman does.
Yeah.
Like that GQ poll doesn't even have Howling Dogs on it, does it? I know it doesn't. I don't think it has I don't think it even has a single Twine game on it at all.
Yeah.
Does it? Does it even have? Imagine like those immense blind spots. Imagine those in any other medium.
For what it's worth, what I'm scared of most, like I was kind of hoping that the way we see, like I did a lot of movie criticism, and I tried
Yeah.
to do like I do some game criticism on the side, and I was always afraid. I was always hoping that the culture of movie criticism comes to games, but like it's more the opposite is happening. Like it's more
Oh yeah.
like movie criticism is turning into fan media, where it's like you
Hmm.
cannot be angry at this movie or like disagree with the cultural opinion, or you're gonna get attacked on Twitter if you disagree
Yeah.
with most people.
It's the
So,
yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
well, but I mean, the audience is there, but there's like kind of an infight happening right now. I don't know, like where it's getting harder and harder to. It's both getting harder and harder to talk about those things as art piece, even though there's more and more people interested in the fact of looking at video game as art or
Yeah.
like analyzing game as art like that.
I think that's part of part of I guess it's the pop culture of it all is that
Yeah,
everybody is accessible, so it all gets filtered through the same kind of stream. When
yeah,
when a lot of it is like, no, if you're sitting down and you're playing Last of Us Part Two, Sky not Skyfall. What's the name of the one? Starfield. Skyfall.
Yeah.
And you're watching, and in between those games, you're playing Fortnite or, X whatever Phasmophobia clone X that came out this week, and it's like no, like long, thoughtful, I guess, games as art game criticism is probably just not for you. And normally you probably wouldn't encounter it, but just funneling it all through the same sludge hole, kind of puts it on everyone's radar, and I think that's how you encounter that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, like I just double checked the list. Also, no text games, no visual novels even on the entirety of this list. It's such a weird, terrible, truly terrible list.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that's the genre, like stuff like visual novel for being more accessible, like obviously most of their audience is not your typical gamer audience. So like if those games are excluded from the top 100, what does it mean about what we want the canon of game to be? Like it's
right.
just
I mean, the canon of games is big budget releases from the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Plus one or two little oddities sprinkled throughout. But it is very much like just high selling games, and then like weird little like hits. This Ultima Underworld's like the weirdest outlier. The rest are like. Anyway, I'm not gonna keep picking on this list. I like picking on the list a lot, but I just think it's a bad list. But it's also like such a jumping off point, I think, for like just discussion about games as a medium, especially when you read it up next to that Sight and Sound poll. They're so stark, so starkly different. But video games, huh? Those are fun little things, I suppose.
I think we all
would
agree with you there.
So the question is what got you both from film into messing around with this world of video games?
For me, it kind of happened by accident. I didn't really play a lot of video games as a kid. That wasn't encouraged. That wasn't part of what girls did back then.
Right. No.
So I didn't know a lot about it until like the last few years, when I kind of accidentally got a contract writing for a mobile game, which again is another genre not very respected in the industry.
Yes. No, that's a whole other. Yeah, I don't think there are any mobile games, even like the quote unquote any of the quote unquote good mobile games, weren't even on that list.
Exactly. So that was my intro, I guess. And I've played a lot of like role playing games and things also over the years, but it kind of dawned on me as someone who came from theater writing plays, the digital reach that we have with video games in particular, and I think that's a really interesting storytelling medium that I think people are looking more for depth of story in their video games now than in the past, or it's developing. And so I'm really interested in kind of that aspect of game design.
Yeah, no, it is. It is like it's kind of like I think we mentioned in the first segment. Now more people just know games as a medium. They're expecting just kind of more things out of them, or they expect them to just be like the other things that they like. Whether that is like I expect this to be like my quote that European art house film or whatever. Like why aren't they making games like that? And I think more people are just going to keep looking for that sort of thing. And I think that they are trickling through here and there, but it's very very different. And they a lot of them have existed for a while, but they're just not canonical in the same way.
Yeah.
For whatever.
I think there's always been experimental games, but the what is known by the general public is very different.
Yes.
The understanding of what a gamer is very different.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like I reference film blocks just because games wants to be filmed so many times. Are enough people making games like we want to be like movies? Well, like, well, then I'm gonna compare you to movies,
Yeah.
and you're gonna like it. But it's a film buff and a gamer are two very different things.
Yeah.
They are extreme. Like one is like you mentioned, Olivia. It's it feels very fandomy. Very pop
Right.
culture focused.
Yeah. On the opposite, like I've always, I mean, I'm a kid who grew up with video game, but
Yeah.
also grew up with movies, and I have like a strong, I feel, and I feel that's the important thing. Like I'm very curious about like all media, and so I was very curious about cinema and video game, and cinema was more accessible in Montreal at the time. So I basically, well, for me, it was more accessible. It's not completely true. I just kind of looked out more into cinema, but
Right.
I'm more of a computer dude, I guess, and that like editing made sense. But like when I work on shooting set, on a movie set, I was not comfortable there. So like I kind of I was in cinema for a few years and then kind of walked back into game, but like I'm still very active. Uh, like I'm gonna write article about cinema still, and like on top of doing my video game, and I might go back to cinema to do some editing on the side and stuff like that. I just found success doing video game stuff recently, so that's been my thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like the idea of like I don't completely love the idea of separating them, but it's a good flashpoint. But like I'm interested as much as the art house as I am the popular stuff. The thing that I find disappointing is that the conversation never go to the art house, or very rarely go to the art house. Like I'm not trying to be mean to all AAA developer out there,
No,
obviously.
listen. This show, I've said that it doesn't hurt to have the games. Games could it wouldn't hurt if games had just like a little bit more pretension in them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's probably where me and Elizabeth like kind of clicked, and like I'm mostly working solo most of the time, but I feel because we're both interested in narrative game that like kind of push what is a narrative game. Um, yeah, that's where we kind of ended up finding common ground to work together, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And I
I
think.
think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I definitely feel like what brought us together as a team was kind of our multidisciplinary background and being able to converse in terms of different mediums and what has happened in those spheres in the past.
Yeah, I think that's very
So yeah.
coming from like Elizabeth, you coming from a background of having not really played games, then also like a background of like theater and film. That's like, oh yes, I look at it, go ideal for a game developer
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, we can understand each other better.
Right,
Yeah.
and there you run into. I think the problem that any medium runs into too much is that it avoids it just being too self-referential. So it's always good when people are like, you do things
Yeah.
besides play video games.
Well, yeah, a big issue that you're gonna meet with a ton of developers or just gamers is that they think they know video game development because they played a lot of games, and it's not. It's so different.
Oh, you just have to go outside and live life. That's how you make video games.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
Yeah,
It's about the human experience.
Miyamoto said it himself. Zelda's just running around the woods playing with sticks.
yeah,
Like, and then it's the same thing that happens with like a lot of art forms. Is even within like big budget blockbuster stuff. Like I like Star Wars is I think a good very classic example of like George Lucas liked old serials and like Kurosawa movies, and people who made new Star Wars like Star Wars.
yeah.
And then it's just like it's the same kind of like, oh well, if you don't pull from a myriad of influences, eventually things kind of you start to feel the derivativeness of them all.
Right.
Which in itself is like good for like fandom culture because you want more of the same. You want like that kind of like, oh yes, X thing is ended, but Y thing is basically like X thing, so I can get more of that.
Definitely makes marketing easier.
Yes, right. Which also makes my marketing very hard.
I can imagine.
No,
Yeah.
I have when I go to events and I flip through pages, sometimes I'll be like, I don't know what this game is about. I don't know how to tell you what this game is about in a second, in like 2 sentences. Like how do you describe? I said it early in the show. Jean Dion is about the life of a housewife, but is it really? Like it is.
Well, yeah, and
Yes.
I mean, I pitched a game inspired by Gentleman, and
Yeah.
Gentleman was literally in my slide, and obviously,
Right.
I've got a few weird looks of what the fuck is this? Like,
Right.
I've
And
never heard of this thing.
and it's like it's one of those things where you can sum up in a sentence, but it's like a sentence does not encapsulate. It's like, the classic Lynch line: "The art is doing the talking."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, I think people are curious, and people will like. Anecdotally, I mentioned I sold a lot of things. I didn't have trailers or demos to sell those with. That was just like I had zines, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But people are like curious. And I think we like game marketing and all that stuff kind of underestimates how curious people can be. And I think, but speaking of curious, I'm quite curious about Olivia and Elizabeth. What's your favorite type of rock?
You want to take it first, Elizabeth? You know more about rocks than I do, I think.
Well, my game studio is called Studio Lazulite, so I think I'm probably gonna have to choose Lazulite as my favorite rock. Because it's beautiful and blue, but it also represents communication and emotional healing.
Ooh,
There's my answer for you.
perfect. Olivia?
I'm going to talk about music because I know music more than
Okay.
rock. I'm way into black gaze these days. So, like, black gaze is a subgenre of metal that's inspired by shoegaze and black metal.
Oh.
I think that the most popular band is Def Haven, but like these days I've been listening to a band called Infant Island. It's very aggressive music. It's not the kind of music you
Yes.
listen to calm down, but like sometime we were talking about art that can be difficult. I like sometimes art that can shake me a little, and that's been good for that.
Ooh, I did not know. Like I've listened to Def Heaven, and I did not know that the Black Gate itself was its own sub genre.
Yeah, it became its own genre.
That's the other thing. Games need more genres. They need more subgenres. I've been saying this. Games need more niche, increasingly niche subgenres, like
We'll get there.
Yeah, just enough and add enough to them. Eventually, FPS will be a top level, and there's 80 million versions of that. And now, follow-up question: do you have a favorite Toho character?
No, I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize.
Yeah, unfortunately, not me either. Sorry.
We do not Toho shame around these parts. Well, thank you both for being on the show. You're going to be back very soon because you're in the last segment. So, but glad to have you both. We'll be back in like 1 minute and 6 seconds, give or take. Bye for now. Welcome back to the show. That was Minutemen with My Heart in the Real World. We're all here. Everyone's here. Max, Linton, Olivia, and Elizabeth. Welcome back, everyone, to the show. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
We are bringing it back to the important group chat segments. Where we
Let's get chatting then.
Yes, that's what I. So important icebreaker. Mario, what a funny little guy. He runs around, jumps on things. What do y'all think of Mario?
I'm not a big fan of the like physics in the 2D games personally.
the interesting thing about this show is the very important question of what do you think of that funny little guy Mario? A lot of people will be like, don't know him, unfamiliar.
know
I
him.
wonder what Mario and Mario 64 compared to like a deer or a feral animal. You know, he's got like shiny eyes,
Yeah,
forward facing, but a little to the side. He looks a little meek and timid and jumpy aroundy. And I like that breed of Mario. It's a good weird Mario.
yeah, he is. I was driving down the highway the other day and I saw a deer, and luckily I stopped in time. But it was really weird to see like backwards long jump all the way back up the forest hill. But I guess that's just a thing deer can do.
They're cool
Yeah,
like that.
you first get learn about parallel universe.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. You know, deer travel most places with only half an A press. Folks, we want to talk about half A presses, and the sheer concept of utterly niche internet videos. That I mean, that itself is fast. I'm fascinated by just like because that person has like a lot of videos, I think, but just like one hit at the right time and got shared by like the right account or whatever.
Yeah, it's really strange to see something like that kind of break into the mainstream as it has now. It's so just like oddly, such a like strangely specific subgenre of speedrunning
Right.
to have everyone know about.
Yeah, just like you know, speedrunning itself is like, you know, when they break through every now and then like of like this extreme sort of like niche approach to like because it's also like extreme. It's like one of video games version of like extreme nerd shit. You know, it's like almost like, you know, sports guys trading stats.
On the topic of
Yeah.
speedrunning, not to brag or anything,
Yes.
I did hold the world record in Outer Wilds for like 2 months. Just gotta bring that up.
That I mean that's
Very nice.
That is an earnest brag of uh uh that, you know, holding a full world record. I've thought before about like doing like a you know, Indiepocalypse speedrunning as part of like
Oh my god, you totally should.
as part of like a pledge drive, because I've done different like little you know, group segments or something. I
That
wanted
would be amazing.
sorry.
I think that would be really cool, not just as a pledge drive thing to get people engaged, but to help people connect over games with smaller fan bases.
Yeah. No, it was exciting to when I did the Paradise versus, oh god, I'm drawing the blank on Charity Tables. What's Charity Tables part of? Lame Dimension, the Paradise Lame Dimension bad game race, and to find out that the aforementioned Charity Tables was a Atlantis Onazo expert and like beat it in like 5 minutes. And just like, but also, you know, it you know, it encourages people to check out, like, you know, to like, hey, what is Atlantis No Nazo? What is Paris Dakar Rally? And
Or should I check them out?
oh
Are they
my
cool?
god, yes, those are Atlantis No Nazo is amazing. It sucks, but it's great. Same with Paris Dakar Rally. That's why.
Yeah,
They're both historically important types.
Yeah, it is like Paris Dakar Rally. You have to like buy like a license. So there's so much like weird density. Like so much of that was the players like not even being able to race a car because you have to do so much to just be able to race a car.
like things, they don't have to be like traditionally good to be interesting. They can suck
Yes.
and still be really cool.
Yeah, no, I love stuff that sucks. I use the term bad art very complimentary.
I think my partner Miles, when we were watching GDQ once, summed it up really well in that there's a universal appeal to speedruns because it's a person really knowledgeable about a niche thing teaching them, and that appeals to a lot of people.
That is what I love. I love like often when I'm looking for like a game that I don't like I want to watch and like if like I don't have time to play this, I don't know if I want to play this game, but I want to watch it and understand it. I'll often look to like speed runs because like I want someone to explain this to me, and like there's only so many chip cheesems in the world, and that there's or one chip in Ironicus, and there's not a common let's play approach of someone who's going to spend a lot of time editing and explaining something outside of like the speed run world. So it is like super fascinating. You're like, yes, I want to understand Mr. Bones. I guess I'm going to watch a speed run. But yes, no, it's also exciting to see like, I would put Friday the 13th on a list too. I feel like culturally people are reevaluating Friday the 13th positively, and I'm getting excited.
Like the game or the movie?
The game. The movie I don't care about. I watch it and I'm like, this is mediocre. But the game is something special, honestly. I think it kind of rules.
Didn't like AVGN do an episode on it?
Yeah. Like it's a quote unquote classically bad game, but it's super interesting.
And it's funny that you mentioned Friday the 13th and Mr. Bones next to each other and Paris Dakar Rally, because I think all those games have in common is that they combine various sort of at odds or obtuse forms of systems to create an experience that kind of more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. They're just like, it is the kind of like a kitchen sink approach, but instead of like actually just putting things that you would expect in a kitchen sink, you're putting garbage into it, and it kind of works in a weird way. You're not just
because the garbage has a high conceit, and it's all within context of one another. You play the game, it makes sense.
Right. It's not like you're putting a crafting system on top of a multiple currency system on top of like a gear system. It's like you're putting platforming on top of survival on top of first person navigation. And it's all like, oh, there's a map. It feels like they don't know that there's rules to games. I mean that positively.
A lot of the like current design trends, you can be surprised with what you can like get away with not doing. Like how much of it is just unnecessary.
Right.
Like for a lot of games, you don't even really like necessarily need like a title screen to start. You can just kind of like jump into it.
Yeah, right. You can just like play a game. You can just do all sorts of like. There's like, but like I think convention and learning from convention. The era of like. Game design, YouTube, and all that kind of. If you're just starting, can skew you towards a specific approach to design.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the like hyper fixation on like game juice right now, where it's like you shoot the gun and it makes like the screen shake for 5 seconds.
I'm turning back. Whenever I shoot guns, screens no longer shake. I am done with screen shaking. I am returning to. I want to play the bongos with this freaking weird skeleton. It's. And like that kind of like I think oddities also tend to like culturally persevere more because they're interesting. There's like
I don't think anyone's going to be talking about like the Spider-Man game for the PS4 in like 20 years.
No, probably not even 2, even if it's good. Like, I there's plenty of games I'm sure I played and enjoyed, but I'm like, oh, well, I'm not going to think about it again.
And meanwhile, when you circle back to Spider-Man 2 on the PS2, that had a very similar cultural spot, people remember it today for the weird stuff like the pizza time minigame, the unhinged Italian, music going on in the background.
Yeah, it's like you cling to the things that don't feel like other things. Like, what does this piece of art have that other pieces of art don't have? It has, Neil Breen in a trash bag room naked. That you don't get that. You don't get that in in Hollywood, in your Hollywood blockbusters, even if it's like what do you say, not good.
Yeah.
And I think there's that like cult appreciation. I think it's coming up more, and I think part of it is like I had Sean Johnson was on last week, who's just like cramming through PS1 games, and I think there's that kind of culture I see a little bit more on YouTube. People just like, oh, I have not like nostalgia or just like let's look back at old consoles, but like almost haphazardly or whatever, or like. Are people getting into Darkseid again? Or is that kind of like, or that like FMV adventure game era? I've heard more about like Darkseid and what's the other one? Harvester and other games like
Harvester is awesome.
Harvester.
That game is nuts.
Yeah, it is like it's like trying to say something. I don't know if it's successful.
It is completely insane.
But it is like so many hard swings. And I will appreciate infinite hard swings over and that's something I look for as like a curator. I am often just like thrilled by like someone taking a hard swing at something, even if I'm also very particular. It's like so even if I don't like it, but very rarely do I dislike a hard swing. I am usually like, if you're going for something something different, I am often impressed in some way or another because it's the kind of thing that I'm looking for.
What was that weird FMV game with Christopher Lloyd that was like kind of similar?
Toonstruck.
Yeah, I think of like Toonstruck.
Yes.
Stuff like Bad Milk, etc.
Yeah, no, that is, for a second I thought you were going to reference, of course, the classic game with Christopher Walken, Ripper.
Yeah.
But no, that is like, right. That's what FMV is this whole like, the quote unquote, it was the future of games, but it wasn't. But there was a lot of money in it. It creates this weird pocket of like design that doesn't exist as much anymore. Because there's like this weird adventure game, and then that is the important thing of like, I think viewing games holistically, like adventure games are, if you like really break them down, they're like adventure games beget survival horror games, which are just adventure games with combat in them. And then
adventure game really is such like a broad term.
Yeah.
It can be like basically anything.
Right. And so you go from like, oh, well, what if a character in an adventure game fought something? It's like, oh, that's how we have Resident Evil. And then it just like these things kind of like build on these ideas and circle around all these different little things. And
I think the only thing that really defines adventure game is that what defines progressing the loop is narrative advancement.
Yeah.
And that can just about anything.
Right. So it's like, does that mean that there's no combat? Like, it's just like, once again, we need more of these subgenres. Or like really a genre is mostly meaningless. It's a handy shorthand occasionally. But, whether or not X falls within X genre is not something I hold too dear to my heart. More like, it makes them handy to talk on. I'm just looking at these little. I keep getting caught up on. I'm going to close this guy's YouTube channel, the half-pressed Mario guy. What am I doing?
I like games that are really, really hard to describe in a specific genre.
Yes, that is.
Those ones are usually the ones that are like the most interesting, where you can't just pin them down necessarily to one thing.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't exist.
I am. We are working on marketing soon for the Indiepocalypse Iron Circus collab, and someone had asked an indie developer for advice, and they were like, "Oh yeah, so here's how I pitched my game. I pitched it as saying it is X. I pitched it to people as X popular game, and like, well, these games are probably, in my experience of Indiepocalypse, those games are not going to be like that. So how do you pitch something when you can't reduce it to, it's Balatro, but I use chess pieces. It's chess Balatro. It's like, what if these games
I think in situations like that, the only like real avenue you have is showing, not telling.
Yes.
Like what makes the game interesting and cool if it's really hard to explain.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've like, I have, and I think that works sort of in that weird way of just like telling people. Sometimes when I would just tell people I don't know how to describe this game fully, that itself makes them curious, because they're like, oh, well, what does that mean? What they want to know what it does mean that a game is kind of this weird kind of indescribable, or like you can only really experience it to understand it.
In a utopic society, you wouldn't have to like tell anyone about your games anything to get them to play it. They would just play it.
Right. They were. That's my dream is a more curious. More curious. I don't want to use the word consumer. You know what I mean. whatever a more curious person, that is a person who is not being sold art, but a person who is seeking out art. Because I feel like we are in the strong era of enjoying art that is sold to us.
Yeah.
So we're.
Yeah. As I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you have any ideas on how to change that.
I don't. I wish. I mean, buy Indiepocalypse. Watch Aqualung.
There's a word you could look into. It's called socialism.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. If we didn't have to work 8 hours, or if we didn't have to constantly work and spend.
Don't tell anyone I said that. Don't tell anyone I said that.
The Aqua Lounge is social, absolutely automated and social lounging, good vibe.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, watch Aqua Lounge. Watch the people are. The thing is, people are making these channels already.
Oh yeah.
And it's just a matter of like, oh well, how do you find those channels? Great question. That I don't know yet. But
I mean, for what it's worth, one of my games I released and got a very big audience, even though it looks super weird and doesn't look like anything else. And I think the people are there. I just got lucky with the algorithm on that one.
Right.
Like, it's just people don't look out for that thing. Well, they don't know where to look. So if the algorithm gets good, then share them that stuff. It works, but then it can break.
Right.
Well, it's just a case of luck on my end.
Yeah, it's like how do you train people off of only using the algorithm?
Yeah, exactly.
And
right now, there's not really an alternative, though.
Right.
Because we're at this weird dot-out point for traditional media and outlets, and everything's kind of converging and chasing the tail of these weird algorithmic phantoms that are becoming increasingly inscrutable.
Yeah, and the sites, when the social media offshoots, the Twitter also ran to like, we don't have algorithms, and I'm like, is the algorithm equivalent, which is the power user with a lot of followers, is that preferable to an algorithm? And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, to me, they are functionally non-desirable, of like a similar random force that gets your thing in front of a lot of people.
Yeah, it does feel really almost truly chaotic in like the chaos theory sense of the word.
Yeah, right. So it's like, did I hit the algorithm right, or did I hit a person who uses co-host all the time right? Person who uses Blue Sky all the time. Either way, they both feel like forces outside my control. But I think there's like there are little ways to sort of. I think it's part of it just making it easy. I mean, it's part of what I've tried to do is just make it easy for people to find things if they just know your thing. And like, it's just like, okay, well, like, people know that, if people know that something like an Aqua Lounge or an Indiepocalypse exists, and they can like just go there every now and then and check things out, and then kind of use those as to other like jumping off points to other things. You go, oh, I'll play the games I saw in there. I'll click through to the developers featured in this issue and play their other games and that sort of thing. It's just like it's the sort of thing where you need to encourage the curiosity. It's why I very specifically I have numbers of issues with like bundles, and so I like, and it's why I part of the reason I sell it as like a singular thing rather than using a bundle is that so I can put it all in a singular package, and force people to download every single game. And it's in a launcher that has every game in it, so it's not like, oh, I want to play 1-2 games. It's like they're all there. You have them all no matter what. So it theoretically gets people interested in that sort of thing. It's the same idea behind like trying to bring back like this affordable publishing model of indie for like a an affordable physical game publishing model. Because I think like
You think physical games are still gonna like be here in 20 years or so?
I'm making them, baby.
Oh yeah, I definitely think they'll still be around.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I bought anything that exists in the real world.
Yeah, and
I'm not doing a good job with preservation.
I do more of it, and I think it's important because they occupy physical space in your life.
Yeah. Well, in cinema, there's a lot of like boutique Blu-ray. Like I have a lot of Arrow stuff, and I feel like there's limited run games, but it's not exactly the same thing. And there's a lack of like, physical boutique game stuff.
Yeah.
In video game that could be cool to happen, I feel.
Yeah, limited run is in the name. All those things have the same kind of like limited run, super rare, etc. Like they're all in the title of we're printing these in small batches, not like Arrow, Criterion. I always forget the name of
and
Vinegar Syndrome.
The cool thing with like an Arrow is that they're gonna make some movies that were not available before available for all on Blu-rays and like to have physically and not on the whim of a streaming platform, and I think that's super important.
And their intention is to like keep things within publication, not just do one small run of it, which I think is
which is a problem with limited run, as you said.
Right. It's like, okay, you get it, but now it's like $180 3 months later, and it's like, no, I mean, the point is that you should be able to always get them at that. That's why, like, I have two. I've got two little tapes that somebody gave me when I at Staple, and I think about them because they take up physical space. If these were just executables and PDFs, I would probably never think about them. It's just a thing that happens. A file on your hard drive is much easier to ignore than a thing that's sitting around your house. And it's a different kind of it's its own kind of like preservation style, because it's like I think about the idea of like is art preserved if it exists on the Internet Archive, for instance, but nobody's talking about it. Like how preserved is it really? I believe awareness is like a crucial part of preservation. But yes,
this isn't exactly the same, but we just hosted a game jam in a physical location a few weeks ago here in Montreal, Scientific Game Jam. And I found it really important to make sure that we had those physical pieces to remember it. Like we printed certificates, we had buttons, and like we really wanted to make sure that it was a memorable experience that people could keep with them, and have all of the games, and like because otherwise it's sort of like there's so much going on in this world that like, okay, I went to a thing, it's done, moving on to the next. Like it kind of just keeps turning, right? The wheel keeps turning. And there's value in celebrating all kinds of wins, whether
Yeah.
that's making a little game jam project or whatever. And as someone coming from the other arts disciplines, that's really important to me to be able to have that in the physical space.
Yeah, because right, there is
Yeah.
like it's so easy for things to just get kind of like lost so quickly. But even a little button, or your pile of lanyards that just keep building up around a bedpost.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
It's like, all right, I did do all these shows. Look, this one's made out of wood. That's weird.
It was real, not just a figment of my imagination.
Right, and it makes you think about that. It makes you think, oh, maybe there's someone who holds that button and goes, huh, maybe, oh, this was fun. Maybe I should try to organize a game jam. It is kind of like keeps people aware, keeps people going.
Well, that's one of the reasons. Like Elizabeth does. I'm doing promo for you, but Elizabeth does small, like card RPG, basically.
Yes.
And like physical. We also both think about board games and
Yeah.
physical design that way. So like, I don't know. I love that we're bringing back interacting with the real world like that.
Yes.
Even-
I,
so.
My business card is an actual little game, just on two sides of a business card that I'll hand out to people. So that's what he's
the business card, the rise of the business card game itself.
Yeah.
No,
I think they're fun.
Oh, I forgot. While I'm thinking of this, before I close this thing, I need to get this. We have a question here from Nightlight to Lince and Lime. This is in parentheticals. That says,
baby.
I don't know why. Do you usually ask questions? That is the end of the statement. It says,
Do I usually ask questions?
And it looks like
I know who submitted this question.
And it looks like it's attributed to this quote is attributed to my good old pal Lince and Lime. This feels like a thing, a message.
I think this is a quote from the game, maybe. I don't know.
This is a message I'm relating.
Whatever.
To.
He's a weasel. He doesn't deserve an answer. Skip him.
Perfect. Your answer has been denied. But that all said, yeah, there is something. You know what? There is. We are approaching 2 hours of recorded time for this, especially because this is a lot of short breaks. So we're going to start wrapping up the show. Does anyone else have any last minute crucial burning statements or questions or anything before we kind of work into our way into the wrap up phase?
I've seen a lot of people making this mistake. I want a warning to everyone listening. Whatever you do not Google King Gordy Justin Bieber.
Okay.
Terrible mistake. Do not do that.
I will not do that.
That's it.
Good advice. Okay. If that all said, we are going to circle around to we're going to go, of course, the important part of ending any show, which is where people promote their own stuff. And we're going to promote their own stuff. So, Olivia, where can people find your stuff should they look to find your stuff?
I have a website that's bonjourborzeuil.net. I just got a little funding to make a game inspired by Gentleman, so a game about a single mother doing her dirty stuff. So you can follow that on Twitter at Boubou Bouchard.
Perfect.
So that's what I'm working on.
I unironically, not this. Listen, if you're unfamiliar with this, maybe it sounds like a joke, but unironically, think the part where she drops the when she's polishing the
potato,
and she drops the brush, is like among the most exciting moments in cinema that I've experienced.
If I have something to end on, it's gonna be you should watch Gentleman and keep an open mind.
Yes,
and that's it.
Set aside 3 hours, but it's worth it. Elizabeth, you're up next.
Yeah. You can find some of my littler games on itch. My name Threwen. It's THREWEN. People always ask me how to spell that. But otherwise, I'd really love to shout out Queensguard Games. I'm producing and writing their project Shards Between Us, which is won a few awards. We've been showing it around at festivals, and you can wishlist it on Steam. That's the important part.
Yes, go. You know what? I can go do that right. Where is it? I can just do that right now.
Awesome, thanks.
It is. Whenever people say wish list things, it's like look at in the time that I was talking about it. I'm already done. Already have finished that. Granted, I was on your page, so I could link through to their Twitter account and then to their Steam list. But it's fast enough. You could do it fast enough without. In the time it took me to over ramble about it, you could have already done it. Linson Lime, hello.
Hello.
Your games. Where could people find those things?
I have an itch.io. That's just Lince and Lime. You can look that up.
Perfect.
I have if you want future news, my YouTube channel is Tomater Lover. I prefer YouTube because it's cooler than Twitter.
Yes.
I also have a Twitter that's Lince and Lime, but I don't use it for much of anything. And my Discord is Tomater Lover. If you want to add me for any reason, or just to say hi.
Yes, that's a thing that people do nowadays, and that is one of those generational differences where I'm like, I don't want people to add me on Discord, even though I've added like 500 people for this show. The old Indiepocalypse guarantee is that Andrew will very rarely, or if ever message you directly on Twitter, on Discord. I just find it weirder to force people to join a channel than it is to add them as a friend. I don't know, but yes, and in the weird conflicts of things, Swollen to Bursting Until I'm Disappearing was in this month's issue. Just
love that game.
Just came out. That was this month's issue. Had a lot of Andrew's hands all over it, which is to say, the 5 of the 10 games I've reached out to the developers personally, and that was one of them. Sometimes
you have a good eye. Huh?
Sometimes I put my thumb on the scale every now and then, and really just like crack my knuckles and be like, let me just put all these games on here myself. But yes, that is cool stuff. Max, hello. Where can people find your stuff?
Right now, since Aqua Lounge is kind of on temporary hiatus, the best place I can point you to is 2 link trees. My personal link tree is Max Krieger. That's KRIEGER. VG for video games. Fun fact, I locked down that handle on pretty much everything to distinguish myself from other Max Kriegers by saying, I'm the video games one.
Yes.
Only to find another Max Krieger in video games who's way cooler than I am. So that was kind of a failure, but the name stuck. And the second link tree is the link tree /aqualounge.tv. That's for all Aqua Lounge related things, Twitch channel, YouTube channel. There is a Discord if you want to join. So those are the 2 best places.
Perfect. And there's me, of course. I'm the last one here. I will say, hey, if you buy Indiepocalypse, I think it's cool. If you buy 51, if 4 people buy 51, then these people here will get somewhere between $5 to $6 American dollars. I forget the exact number. If you'd like to join Indiepocalypse, that of course is easily found at indiepocalypse.com/submit. If you'd like to pick up Indiepocalypse, if you would like to subscribe, set it and forget it style, or if you just like to get strictly the commission games for $5 a month, you can go to indiepocalypse.com/Patreon. This month's game by Tipshada. It was like that's a name like I've never said out loud, so I'm gonna trust that. Please Stay Away is there. And that's like, hey, if y'all want a cool game once a month for only $5, it's a bargain. You can subscribe for a year for $50. For the cost of less than a AAA video game, you get 12 games. And from like the hot shots of the indie alternative scene is how I like to think of it. I mean, there's also hot shots featured in the non-commissioned spaces, but that's because there's a lot of hot shots out there. What else? What the hell else do I do? Tape Club, if you like to get Indiepocalypse physically in this little cool cassette format that I'm holding in front of my camera that's not on, but I'm holding for Creature Creation Station, not my own game. You can do that at indiepocalypse.com/tape market. Fuck, what do I call this thing? No, indiepocalypse.com/tapes. I have too many tapes. If you would like to have your game in that aforementioned affordable cassette case USB stick format, you can apply at pizzapranks.com/tape market for me to send you some, for me to sell them on my store, for me to bring them to events with me. Anecdotally, I hear it's good. Anecdotally, I hear people at the zine fairs are going like, these things are cool, from not only myself, but from like 2.5 Studios, Ash K, Indiepocalypse contributor, going to different zine fairs, Pop Culture Fest, doing great. I think it's the affordable DIY format for games. They cost like about $2.50 a piece. It's cheap. They're like CDs but games. They're like zines but games. That's my 2024 thing, is getting people into those. If you're like, I don't buy it, I don't believe it for a second, well, why don't you go to pizzapranks.com/tape club, which is a monthly subscription tape club where it's like I find all the coolest, biggest things of people who like me, and I say, hey, want to be in my tape club. And this month, of course, the first month was an Outcry. This month, Shotgun King. Next month, it's a mystery, but it's you know what? It's a cool game. And there are more cool games to come as my way of like just trying to brute force the stuff I want in games into existence. I think that's it. I don't think I have any of the URLs. I think we're wrapping it up. Max, Linson, Elizabeth, Olivia, thank you all for joining me here today on this oddly timed version of Indiepocalypse Radio.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yeah, absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you. And you know what? Listen, I'm going to do it again. Hey, thanks you all. Thank everyone for listening and watching and tuning in to Indiepocalypse Radio. It's a fun thing to do. I like to do it. It's another case of me just stealing better ideas from other mediums. And that idea is, hey, what if we were on each other's shows promoting each other's stuff all the time? I think game devs need more like cross-promo stuff. That's just like, hey, what if we shared each other's stuff a lot? That's it. That's the show. As soon as I find Fubar, we're going to shut it down. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.